Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Jones, better known as the Turf Teacher. And welcome to the course entitled Managing Risk. Guys, managing risk will get you one business continuing education credit for your North Carolina Irrigation Contractors Licensing Board certification. So you'll get one business hour for this course. Guys, the NCICLB has given this course a number of 11818. So 11818 for managing risk. And guys, this comes from the NASCLA textbook, which is the Landscape Contractor's Guide to Business Law and Project Management. And Chapter 4, Managing Risk, probably one of the most important chapters in this textbook and one of the most important topics that you need to understand as a licensed irrigation contractor or as a licensed landscape contractor and even a licensed pesticide applicator, guys. You need to protect yourself. And what better way than to protect yourself as then with a sturdy insurance policy that will eat up all of your profits in your business. And just kidding on that. But guys, insurance is expensive, but not having insurance can be a lot more expensive. As we talked earlier in one of these irrigation courses, where there was an instance in a town nearby that a young man was mowing a corner lot on a Saturday afternoon. He had a factory job Monday through Friday, and he cut a few yards during the week to make ends meet and to help out the family so they'd have a little bit of extra money. Unfortunately, his mower picked up a rock, and that rock went sailing across the air through the passenger side windshield and hit a young lady in the side of the head, really destroying her life. It did not kill her, but she needs round-the-clock medical care now. She's pretty much, on life support and needs help 24/7. The young man that was cutting the grass did not have any type of liability insurance or any type of insurance. He was a sole proprietor, which I do not recommend. I recommend incorporating or forming at least an LLC. Guys, you've got to have some separation between your personal assets and business assets. And then he did not have insurance. So what had happened, there was a lawsuit and everything. He was sued for pretty much everything that he owned. He lost his house. He lost his business. I'm not even sure if he actually lost his job at the factory too, but I do know that he lost his wife. He lost his family just because of the financial stress. They had to sell every single thing to pay those medical bills for that young lady. And I'm sure there's even a judgment and everything that was filed against him. So, long story short, guys, that is a terrible, terrible thing to happen, especially to the young lady that got hit with the rock. We don't know what life's going to throw us out there, but even as a business owner, could you imagine not only having to pay that, but having that weight on your shoulders, knowing that you had hurt somebody, by accident like that? It ruined several lives. Not only the young lady that got hurt, but it ruined the guy cutting the grass. It ruined his life. It ruined his wife's life. It ruined his kid's life. It was a terrible, terrible thing to happen. So guys, you have to manage risk. And I hear so many guys out there talking about, what's workman's compensation, Eric? What? I mean, do I really need to have that to cut grass? And when I tell them this story, I hear it all the time. Holy cow. Guys, it can happen to anybody. I don't care if you don't have but one employee. The state of North Carolina says that you have 3 or more employees, you need to have workers' compensation. I'm going to have workers' compensation if I have one employee. Do I cover myself? No. I mean, you can elect to exempt yourself being a corporate officer out of your insurance policy, and that keeps the price down. I mean, you'd have to turn it in on your health insurance or just pay out of pocket if you got hurt on the job. But, 9 times out of 10, you're not the one running equipment. You're out selling the jobs. You're doing the estimating. So you don't need that insurance on yourself. And you'd rather have it for your employees. And you got to have it for your employees. But and then you got to have general liability. Guys, if something happens, and I just couldn't imagine driving down the street with mowers and tractors and skid steers and dingoes and all that on my truck, not having insurance. You could lose it all. You could lose every single thing in just one car accident. And so what really gets underneath my skin is when I talk to some of these contractors and they're like, Eric, I'm fully insured and licensed. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? You know, tell me about it. Let me see a certificate. A certificate of insurance? What do you mean? Well, let me call my auto policy insurance company and see if I can, you know, tell you over the phone or something that I got insurance. They're talking about having insurance on their cars or their truck that they're pulling that mower with. That's not fully insured and fully licensed. I'm like, well, are you a landscape contractor? No. Are you an irrigation contractor? No. What do you mean fully licensed? I've got a driver's license. What are you talking about? I'm fully insured and licensed. I have a driver's license and I have a liability insurance and collision on that old truck out there I'm pulling the mowers with. And they think that they are that truly fully licensed and insured. And I see that all the time. I see that with the one-man operators. And I try to tell them, guys, you just don't know the risk that you're taking. And then you see all these Instagram influencers out there that have 0 employees. It's just themselves. And yes, they may have 45,000 followers. And then you ask them how many yards they're cutting a week, and they're like 20. And I'm like, and you have 45,000 followers, and you have companies sending you equipment to use? You don't even have to buy anything, do you? No, they send it here for me to test. And I tell them I'm fully insured and licensed. Fully insured and licensed. I got that card out there. I got that truck out there I'm driving. It's got insurance on it, and I got a driver's license, so I'm covered. And then they're out there doing work and competing against us. Drives me crazy, and I hate it even more when I see it on a business card, where I see it on one of these 3-formed carbon copy forms that they're writing their estimates on. Gosh, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. And to know what I'm spending a month in insurance. But you know what? I can lay my head down at night and rest easy knowing that my workers are covered and that my equipment is covered and that I'm protected. But these guys, they don't care. They do not care. So, guys, anyway, let's get on into the course subject, managing risk. Our objectives in this course. We're going to talk about risk management benefits. We're going to talk about insurance. I bet every single one of us knows our insurance agent's name by heart and their telephone number by heart. Mine is 764-5990 Farm Bureau. Love the guys. I mean, they do. They know me by name. I can have anything done that I need to. It's a matter, I can go buy a truck tomorrow. They'll add the policy. I can call them 3 days later, and I'm still covered. I have that good of relationship with them. Property insurance, protecting the shop, protecting the equipment. Liability insurance, if you were to damage someone else's property on site while you are doing a job, you are covered under liability insurance. Business owners policies, or BOPs, kind of like an insurance policy, like a life insurance policy. I remember talking about the vet that I had. He lost his partner. Automobile insurance, burglary and theft insurance, coverage gaps and overlaps, and then employment-related insurance, and then subcontractor insurance. And that is another thing that drove me crazy being a home builder. You'd have these guys that would falsify their certificate of insurance. And so, they'd submit a pay application, and, you cut the check, and you're like, hey, I need that proof of insurance, and they'd send it to you, and it'd be 2 years old. Or you'd call the insurance company, and they're like, man, they ain't paid their workers' comp in 6 months. We've cut them off. And then you've got to deal with that, and then you are responsible for paying that premium. You can't have somebody working for you that does not have workers' compensation. So drives me absolutely insane when it comes to that type of insurance. There again, you're hiring that sub, and I guess that's why they're a sub to begin with, because they are subpar for the job. They can't actually do it themselves. And so I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but I've had more bad experiences with subcontractors than I have with good ones. If they were good, they would have their full general contractor's license. And, they're the ones knocking on the door Friday afternoon at 5:30. Eric, I need a check for putting up some, we started a little bit of vinyl siding. We wrapped one side real quick. I said, yeah, you showed up today. Yeah, I need it, man. I had to show up today because I had 2 or 3 other builders that ain't paid me, and I knew you would. So can I go ahead and at least get half of it, if not all of it? And I promise you, when we finish up them jobs next week, we'll be back the following week. Happened so many times, and I was a nice guy, and I would write the check. So absolutely, I do not want to build houses ever again. That's why I love this green industry. Born and raised in it, going to die in it. And then we're going to talk about what is a bond. Well, you're an irrigation contractor that's listening to this course, or a landscape contractor, or possibly both. So you're going to have 2 types of bonds. You're going to have bonds for both license. You're going to have bond language. We're going to discuss the types of bonds that you may need, bond qualification, bond claims, and then federal construction bonds, and then even North Carolina state government construction bonds. So guys, all kinds of things or types of bonds that you may need. And you may even need a payment bond. You may need there's all kinds out there, especially if you get into some of this heavy construction and you're doing a big landscape job for some of these larger GCs on commercial properties. So it can actually get kind of nasty. All right, so we're going to start out with risk management benefits. Unmanaged risk can definitely harm your business. You can have a financial loss, you can lower those profit margins, and you can have unnecessary liabilities. And so just do it. Protect yourself straight up. Call Farm Bureau, call State Farm, call Builder's Risk, talk to your bank. Guys, your banks usually have good connections for your insurance. But risk management involves assessing all areas of your business. And so there again, you've got to know exactly what you're doing. And here's some things that happen, guys. You may be a strictly lawn maintenance, lawn care guy, so you're mowing, you're spraying, you're fertilizing yards. You may do a little bit of pruning and pine needling and stuff, so doing full service maintenance. But then you have that client to call and say, hey, can you take down that tree? And you're like, yeah, we can do it. It's kind of slow time of the year. Let's go ahead and take down that tree. Guys, be careful. That's when something's going to happen. You gotta be covered on it. Don't try to sneak it in and not get paid for it, or sneak it in and not have to pay the workers' comp on it. Guys, if those guys are climbing that tree, or they're taking that tree down, or getting on a ladder, or getting in a lift, your premiums go up. That's a lot different than actually paying workers' compensation on a guy that's cutting grass. That roofer, that tree arborist guy, the rates are so much higher. And if they were to get hurt and you're not paying that premiums on it, you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble. And so I say stay away from it. If we get a tree job or anything like that, we're going to refer it to Mr. Lusk, David Lusk here in Winston-Salem. Hey, let him handle it. He's got all the stuff to do it. He'll give us a little kickback, or we trade work back and forth. I mean, that's how we do it. But good risk management provides several benefits that affect your reputation and bottom line. Guys, what if you're out pricing a job and the customer says, hey, can I get a certificate of insurance? And if you're like some of these guys I've talked to here recently, they pull out a business auto policy card in their pocket and say, yep, I'm fully insured. Guys, have it. Have a business card of your insurance agent if your client wants to call. Put it on your estimates and say, hey, for certificate of insurance, call the office, or here's our insurance agents. They'll be glad to get it for you. And then a lot of these general contractors that you work for is probably going to ask you to make them a additional insured on your policy, which will cost you a little bit of money. But if that's what it requires to get the job, you do it. And so, protecting your reputation, your bottom line, it can also lower business and liability insurance premiums if you were to really sit down and look at your business and write down everything and know what you're doing and manage your risk. You can lower your premiums. And guys, I've seen guys, workers' comp and general liability double the next year because they decided to change their name. They went from lawn and landscaping to lawn and tree work. Well, boom. If that's in your company name, you've just doubled your premiums on that stuff. So stay away from it. How many times have you heard me say monotonous work makes work? And you can see it all over Instagram and stuff where Turfs Up Radio posted that quote that I said, monotonous work makes money. Stick to your realm of work and know that realm. Don't try to do roofing on the side and getting up there cleaning out gutters, because it's just going to cost you more insurance a little bit later. Stick to green industry stuff. Yes, and here I'm sitting there saying that when we put up Christmas lights, but guys, we do things the right way. You know, our insurance company saw us on Facebook and they said, "Yep, you boys are in that lift. You better have a harness and everything on, and that's going to cost you a little bit of premium." So we keep those hours separate when we're doing the Christmas lights because we do have to pay a little bit more workers' compensation. You can reduce your chances of being sued if you take risk management serious. And then you can also improve chances of prevailing in a lawsuit. And if you're doing the things the right way, guys, your insurance company is going to go to bat for you. They will. I've seen it. We've experienced it. Farm Bureau was actually sat in a courtroom with us and actually defended us, not on a workers' comp claim, but on a general liability claim. They were there for us. But they've also gone to bat for us when it comes to a worker that filed a false claim of workers' compensation. They said they hurt their back on our job, but to come to find out, the gentleman hurt his back doing a side job on the weekends, and our insurance company investigated it, and guess what? They found out that he was not on our job when that happened based on the time of the hospital reports and everything, so they did not cover his expenses, and he was trying to get a hernia operation out of that on workers' comp. So insurance, money, 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 right? Insurance is a way to supplement your risk management program to protect your business against unseen events such as accidents and theft. Now, I actually just bought a new John Deere tractor, a little small one with a bucket on it. We actually did it to pull the lift around for the Christmas lights, and I got the insurance through John Deere. For the entire payment, while I was financing the tractor, they actually covered it 100% insurance for $500. I'm like, my God, you guys are so much cheaper than if I'd went through my regular insurance company. And it's tacked on to the payment. And I'm like, holy cow, this is wonderful. It covers theft. It covers anything that happens to it. Our shop could burn down. The neighbor could come and steal it and sell it to his neighbor on the other side, and we would be covered. So your equipment dealers are probably going to offer something else like that, and Deere offered it, and I was glad to add that to the payment for it. So, but without it, you could lose your business in a lawsuit if you don't have that insurance. And the less coverage your business has, the more risk that you will assume. Insurance is a protective measure in which coverage is obtained for a specific risk or a set of risks through a contract. And so what they're going to do, your insurance company is going to like, hey, you're going to tell them what you do. Hey, I cut grass, I do irrigation, I do pruning, I do pine needling. Well, do you do tree work? No, sir, you don't. Stay away from it, guys. But if you want to be an arborist and do tree work, then do that 100% all of the time. Don't add it as an add-on service. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want anything to do with the chipper. I don't want to get close to one. I want nothing to do with it. After I heard about that young guy down in close to Shelby, North Carolina, that his first day on the job went through one. Poor fellow, he was 19 years old. I had one of my landscape contractors that comes to my classes tell me about that. He was on the street down the road and actually heard all the ambulances and police and everything show up. And the individual, yes, died immediately, but then minutes later, the owner of the company had a massive heart attack just knowing that he had lost that young employee the first day. So a terrible, terrible accident down there. And guys, that's why you've got to have insurance to protect you from things like that. There it was, though. That guy was new on the job, wasn't experienced around it, and was packing, trying to get the debris to go through the chipper, and unfortunately he did as well. So sad, horrible story. scary to even think about. An insurance policy outlines the specifics of the contract between your business and the insurance company. What is it that they are going to cover? This is your policy. The law may require you to carry a certain level of coverage, depending on the type of work you do. Like most people carry at least 500,000 in liability, if not a million or 2 million. It's not that much more to get the million over the 500,000. Make sure that you're covered. And then there's going to be workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, and vehicle insurance. Eric, what's the unemployment insurance? I pay my boys cash under the table every Friday afternoon. Let me tell you something. If you're paying your employees cash and you're not taking out taxes and covering them under unemployment insurance, the IRS will knock on your door faster with that. You could go years without filing income tax. They'll eventually catch up with you on that. But if you go and they know that you are not taking out taxes and paying unemployment insurance on an employee, boom, they're going to knock on the door quick. I had that happen. I was still married to the girl's mom when this happened. She called me. She said, "You need to get here fast." I'm like, "What's going on?" We were driving in, three trucks following each other from a job. And she said, "There's some people here looking for you." I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "What are?" She said, "I don't know. They're in black Suburbans. There's two of them. One followed in." And she said they got out. They were in black suits. She said it kind of reminds me of the movie Men in Black. She said, "They're all dressed alike." And she said the lady had a firearm and she had a badge on her. She said, "I'm with the Internal Revenue Service. I'd like to speak to Mr. Eric Jones." Well, she's like, "Well, he's on his way in." They're on their way in. She's like, "All right, we'll wait here." I get there. Super nice lady, though, but she made sure she showed that badge and sidearm. And she said, "Mr. Jones," she said, "you owe us $2,100. I said, "For what?" She said, "You got off on your tax rates and some checks that you wrote to yourself." I'd actually was paying my wife and I out of the general contracting business, not out of the landscape business. And I downloaded the wrong tax tables. And for about 4 or 5 months, we were actually paying ourselves. And I got off. I didn't get behind. I got off on that unemployment tax. And guess what? They caught it right off the bat, and they showed up and they said, "We want our money today." And so what do you do but write them a check? They were easy to deal with, but guys, they're going to catch you on that stuff. And so when I hear some of my clients, they come to Turf Teacher classes and they say, "Eric, I pay everybody $10.99 or I pay them cash." I'm like, I'm not going to fool with doing all that tax stuff. I'm like, "How many employees you got?" 10. Are you just setting yourself up for failure? That's what I want to know. Do you want to get in trouble? Do you want to go to that white collar crime prison and spend a few hot summer months down there? Then do the right thing. Take out the taxes on your employees and pay it. I don't even like doing anybody $10.99. I wanna make sure that we're covering ourselves on it. All right. And then so property insurance. Property insurance typically covers your business and personal property when damage, theft, or loss occurs. And then it can cover a variety of risks like fire, theft, vandalism, or even acts of God. And that could be like, tornado. It could be a hailstorm that just beats the heck out of that new Dodge truck you just bought. And so make sure you have it. Just make sure you have it. You don't want to have your shop burned down and you've got all your new equipment in there, unless you've got, separate policies on your piece of equipment. But a lot of times guys just have the property insurance because they've got materials in there. They've got bags of fertilizer or pallets of fertilized chemicals. They've got a lot of inventory that needs to be covered on it. And so what to cover? You need to cover your buildings. You need to cover your furniture, your equipment, your supplies, your inventory, your machinery, even your computers in your shop, your intellectual property. Guys, intellectual property, that's, let's say, hey, when we were with the franchise system of Christmas Decor, all of that stuff was proprietary information. We had to keep it locked up. We couldn't let just that information, especially the pricing and stuff, get into the hands of other people. And then you have intangible property, which is, basically your business reputation. It's not something that you can actually own, but it is an asset, an intangible asset. And then if you're leasing any type of equipment, you definitely want to have that covered underneath your property insurance. And so then there's all risk builders risk insurance. Um, that is a form of proprietary insurance that covers property owners and builders for buildings under construction. So when I was a GC, whenever we got to the framing portion of the house, we had to implement a builder's risk policy. And of course, I got that through Farm Bureau as well. And, you'd pay it for like 6 months, for the entire construction of the house. I was running, I think, about $2,500 based on the size of the house that we were building. And so, I didn't pay it. I think I paid it in like 2 payments. So, we'd give them, $1,200–1,300 up front, and then, another payment. But like I said, it averaged about $2,500 a house. Then you have named peril builders risk insurance, and that is a risk insurance policy that has narrower coverage than the all risk insurance, and it specifies what perils are covered. Typically, the named peril policies are written for fire and lightning, but can also include events such as wind damage, explosion, water damage, even terrorism, and an earthquake. We won't see much of that here in North Carolina. Then you have inland marine. I've always heard my dad talk about that growing up. And then you have equipment theft insurance. But inland marine insurance is a type of property insurance that you can purchase for your tools and equipment. It provides coverage for the goods in transit and projects that are under construction. And then an equipment floater policy is a type of inland marine insurance, and this coverage is for equipment that is available on an all risk or specified peril basis. The coverage provided is either direct physical loss to the equipment and is designed to cover mobile equipment while it is stored on premises or in transport or at a temporary location and the job site. And then a transportation floater and motor truck cargo insurance. Both transportation floater and motor truck cargo insurance are types of inland marine insurance. A transportation floater protects the transporter against damage that occurs to freight during transport. And then you got the motor truck cargo protects the transporter in the event of damaged or lost freight. So look at all this that you may need to have depending on what type of landscape and irrigation company that you run. So get ready to have a fat paycheck to take care of all this, right, guys? And then you have commercial liability or CGL. This is basically going to take care of bodily injury that results in actual physical damage or loss for individuals who are not employees. Damage or loss to the property not belonging to the business, personal injury, including slander or damage to reputation. Wow. Remember, guys, we got a bunch of snowflakes out there. You can't say anything to them. And so if you look at them wrong, they might want to file a claim against your general liability. That just drives me absolutely insane, guys. And then there is an advertising injury, including charges of negligence that result from promotion of goods or services. So if you were to sell a product and it ends up hurting somebody, they can come back on your commercial general liability. And remember, if you've actually seen my lecture entitled Business Insurance, that was probably one of the first courses that I ever produced for the NCICLB license renewal. But there was an example in the business insurance class of snow. You're at your office, you're at your landscape and irrigation office, you're sitting in there, you are doing paperwork or whatever, and you have a client come by and visit you, whether to pay a bill or to question a bill or whatever, but they are walking up the steps to your property and they slip and fall. Your general liability will take care of that injury for that customer. However, if that customer is walking up the steps and they see crew leader Joe who does not like her, and he actually walks by her and kind of pushes her down while she's going up the steps, your commercial general liability will not cover that. They are going to go after that crew leader who pushed her down. And that's sad to say, but I'm sure it's happened before, guys. But it's only going to protect you for accidents. It's not going to protect you for the willful knowing of doing something wrong to cause injury to somebody else. And then we have an umbrella liability insurance, and that is an insurance policy that can supplement your commercial general liability policy. This umbrella policy, excuse me, guys, will provide additional coverage in areas that are not covered in the CGL policy. Then we have directors and officers liability insurance. D&O is sometimes referred to. And this type of insurance protects the directors and officers from liability due to actions connected with their corporate positions. These actions include such things as misstatement of financial records, misuse of company funds, and failure to honor an employment contract. This insurance does not cover intentional or illegal acts. This is like, oops, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Slap me on the wrist. Let me have protection underneath this policy. And then we've got contractual liability insurance. This provides contractors with protection for damages that result from their negligence while under written contract. Then we have contractors protective public and property damage liability insurance. And this protects contractors who supervise and subsequently are held liable for actions of subcontractors from claims for personal injury and property damage. Again, protecting those subs, right? And then we have a construction wrap-up liability insurance, bundles liability, and workers' compensation insurance for general contractors and subcontractors on large construction projects. And something else that I don't have listed up here would be professional liability insurance, sometimes called errors and omissions. And guys, this will protect contractors from negligence resulting from errors or omissions of designers and architects. And you will hear your landscape architect talking about having to have that professional liability insurance. So a lot of stuff there that we have. Then we have the business owners policies. They can bundle property and liability coverage together. This type of coverage can eliminate gaps or overlaps between separate coverage. And then you can have small and mid-sized companies usually qualify for this type of coverage. And I do want to apologize that BOP, I got it totally confused at the beginning of this lecture with Keyman Life Insurance. And that's what my veterinarian had when his partner died. It's Keyman Life, or I've heard it called, let's see, what else did they call it? It is a life insurance policy, Keyman, but there's another word that I'm actually looking for, and it is totally slipped my mind. So let's just keep moving on, right? But BOPs, again, they bundle that liability, property and liability coverage together. That additional coverage, it can be purchased depending really on the particular risk of that company and that project. So good to have and good to know that you may qualify to have that. Automobile insurance. Hey, this is what them guys are talking about when they're fully insured, right? If you have a company vehicle or a fleet of vehicles, auto insurance provides coverage for liability and physical damage associated with vehicles owned by your company. All states require vehicle owners to carry some level of liability insurance. Now, guys, make sure that if you've got some estimators out there in the field and they are representing your company, you need to make sure that they have insurance on their vehicle, because if they are en route from your shop to a job in their personal vehicle, you can more than likely be held responsible for it because they're acting in a manner for your company. So make sure that they have their automobile insurance up to date if you're paying them mileage back and forth while they're doing their estimates. Burglary and theft insurance covers losses or damage by burglary, theft, larceny, robbery, forgery, fraud, and vandalism. It does not cover employees acts. So if you catch your employee and you suspected it, and next thing you know, you're missing drills and saws, and next thing you know, you're missing weed eaters and blowers, and they're like, I bet it's employee Bill doing it. It's not going to cover it, guys. A fidelity bond or employee and theft insurance is used to cover criminal acts or burglary and theft by employees. And this reminds me so much of something that happened last night to me. Here it is. It's Christmas time, so I have 3 little girls who have a high dollar wish list. They love Lululemon, and so we were in the store Lululemon, and I love those girls there. They know us by name, unfortunately. Guys, everything I wear comes from Target, and but I'll have to admit, my girls, they wear Lululemon, and we were standing there and we were checking out, and I kind of, they took me in there. Hey, Dad, I want this for Christmas, and kind of things. And I bought them a couple things, because they tried it on, made sure, and there was just 1 or 2 left, so they got it. But we were leaving. We were getting ready to leave, and we were checking out, and one of the employees finished their shift, and he ran back to the back to grab his backpack. So I guess he's like a college student. And another employee, he had to bring his bag over there and show them that he did not take anything out of the store. So they have to self-check each other. And I asked the lady about that. I said, you had to check him to make sure he wasn't stealing. She's like, yeah. She said, we have to do that with every employee that brings a bag in. And so that's one way to protect yourself. That's risk management, right? Just like Dad, Mom and Dad, they went up to Biltmore Estates this past weekend with my brother. They actually bought that for him for Christmas last year, and they just did take it now this December. But they went up there, and Dad's like, yeah, he said, we were standing there, and he said some of the employees were leaving, but they were standing in line, and the security guards were checking their bags as they left the house. It was part of the maintenance crew, or, the housekeeping crew, and they had to check their pocketbooks and backpacks as they left the Biltmore. So again, more risk management in process there. They're making sure they're not having anything stolen out of that multi-billion-dollar house. And then, like I said, at Lululemon, they were making sure they're not stealing, the clothes there from the store. Keyman Insurance, beneficial if your company depends on specific individuals for continuing success of your business. And this Keyman Insurance is available as life insurance, disability insurance, or both. So yeah, what if, our veterinarian guy didn't lose his partner to death, but he lost it to, a vehicle crash that paralyzed him from neck down, and so he's pretty much bedridden the rest of his life. That Keyman would have kicked in there. And you'll also hear a lot of larger corporations have this type of insurance policy on their CEO, especially if their CEO is really doing good for the company and raising those dividends for their people. They want to be able to replace that individual pretty quickly, and they'd want to take care of the family of either that deceased CEO or whatever. But you'll see a lot of the larger corporate mainstream have this key man, or we should call it key woman and key man insurance on their CEOs. And so maybe there's a landscape or irrigation contractor out there that's got key man on them. That'd be pretty cool, guys. But you think about it. If something were to happen to you, the one listening to this radio or listening to this lecture, the business might shut down. And then we got coverage gaps and we've got overlaps. Understand the coverage that your policies cover. Be aware of any gaps or overlaps that may exist between the policies. And then what is the difference in coverage may cause difficulties in claim settlements. And so what it is, you've got 2 policies, and what if they're from 2 different insurance companies? They're going to argue and fight over which pays which. And so that needs to kind of be figured out. And I guess that's why you would have that business owner's policy or the BOP to make sure that. So you want to minimize issues by only using one insurance company. I 100% agree with that. And then if you have overlap coverage, make sure each policy has equal reimbursement levels. And then carefully evaluate your risk management program and supplement with appropriate coverage. And guys, if you have a good agent, and if they care anything about you, they're going to kind of set you down and kind of go over your policies and make sure that that is taking place and that they are providing you with the best coverage at the best reasonable rates. And then employment related insurance, workers' compensation. It provides coverage for employees who are injured on the job. And guys, I'll never forget this. I did a lecture my first year on campus. The individual that hired me was actually my boss. They were reviewing me. You know, we have our employee evaluations every year, and so they have to do a classroom audit. And I was talking about business insurance for the green industry. And we were talking about workers' compensation and general liability. And after the lecture, that individual come up to me and she said, Eric, do we, as landscapers, do we have to have workers' compensation? I'm like, if you got 3 or more people working for you. But I said, if I had one person working for me, I would definitely have workers' compensation. And what, that general liability, that stuff is scaring me. I mean, I do some work on the side. What if something, well, if something happened, you better make sure you have a policy to cover it. I just still cannot fathom not having workers' compensation and general liability. It's unreal, guys, unreal. I mean, you need to have GL if it's just you. Yeah, if you don't have any employees, you don't need the workers' compensation. And if you have 2, you don't have to have it. But I would still have the WC. But man, I'm going to have general liability no matter what. If you're working on somebody else's property, you better have general liability. If you are a sole proprietor, or partnership, or LLC, you're required by law to have it. 3 or more employees, guys. And then any contractor who sublets any part of a contract must first obtain documentation that the subcontractor is in compliance with the North Carolina Workers' Compensation Act. So if you hire a subcontractor, you better make sure that their policy is in effect. Before they even step foot on your property, I need that certificate of insurance, and I need it now. Not when I'm going to pay you. You need to be covered right now. Well, Eric, I'll have them send it to you. I'll have them send it to you. No, before you start working, I need a copy of that certificate of insurance. I need to know that you are covered and your employees are covered. Because if I'm going to pay you $10,000 on this project, I'm not going to be charged a premium on $10,000 to cover your butt when they do my audit. So have the certificate. Get it from them. Unemployment insurance, benefits to eligible workers who become unemployed through no fault to their own and meet other eligibility requirements. And be careful of those individuals that are trying to ride that for life. And then you have Social Security insurance. This is through the Social Security Administration that is responsible for paying retirement, disability, and survivor benefits to workers and their families. It is also responsible for administering the Supplemental Security Income Program. And so, yes, you have to take all these insurance out and the taxes out, and you have to pay it for the employee and yada, yada, yada. That's why I recommend a payroll service, 100%. And then when hiring subcontractors, verify their insurance coverage. Does the subcontractor carry the appropriate insurance? Is the coverage adequate for the type of work they're performing? And is the insurance, is it current? And guys, if you're hiring somebody to do tree work for you, get that certificate and make sure that they're not just paying premiums on lawn care. They need to pay the correct rates. They need to be in compliance, or guess what? You is. And then if you require the insurance coverage, put it in the contract. Make sure you have, before you start work, before you show up on the property, certificate of insurance needs to be in our office, and Eric Jones himself wants to personally look at it and say, yep, that's a real piece of paper with real ink on it. And then a bond. What is a bond? You're an irrigation contractor. You're a landscape contractor. You have a bond. But most general contractors do not, because a bond on a general contractor would be way too expensive. And that's why they do financial statements to renew their license instead of a bond. And so a surety bond is a risk transfer mechanism between a surety bond company, the contractor, and the project owner. It's going to make sure that you're doing the right thing. The agreement binds the contractor to comply with the terms and conditions of a contract, and if the contractor cannot perform the contract, the surety bond company assumes the contractor's responsibility and ensures that the project is completed. Now, we were doing the student union at University of North Carolina at Greensboro. It was a big job, a big irrigation system, 3-inch main line all the way around. Grass pavers for fire trucks to drive around. I mean, they had concrete that was like 2 feet thick that these fire trucks could go around, and then we did everything with the fire truck grass pavers, so those trucks could get around the entire building. And they were still building the building while we were there doing some of the landscaping. But there was an electric company. Big company, electrical company, Star Electric out of Greensboro, was there working on time and materials because the original electrical contractor did not complete the job, and they enacted the bond on the company, and so the bond company hired Star to finish the job, and that cost them an arm and a leg. Guys, and what that happened, they had 3 prime contractors on the job. The general contractor was, responsible for us being the landscapers, the construction of the building, but they also broke down mechanical and electrical. So they had 3 prime contractors, the GC, the HVAC contractor, and the electrical contractors, because, it was such a big project. And so when the electrical contractor went belly up, lost everything, they enacted that bond, and boom. They went after them hard, and then Star was in there working, time and materials until the job got completed, and that the University of North Carolina at Greensboro was 100% satisfied. That's how long they were there. Guys, you do not want a bond acted upon you. They will come after you with everything they got to get their money back. So make sure you don't ever have to use it. And then there's other types of bonds. Let's see if there's talking about it. Bond language. The bond amount is generally set as a percentage of the estimated cost. Ours is very small, being an irrigation contractor. Bond lengths are typically required for a fixed rate of time following a project milestone. Requirements for notice of defect or lack of maintenance, and then there's a period for completion of correction that is generally outlined after a notice of defect. And then if the contractor does not successfully complete all required work or violates any requirement of the bond, enforcement measures are outlined to ensure project completion and proper maintenance. And so again, you don't want that to happen to you, ladies and gentlemen. Then there's the bid bond. Guarantees that the contractor, if awarded the job, will do the work at the submitted bid price and enter into a contract with the owner and furnish the required performance payment bonds. Now, example of that, you go to a pre-bid conference and you get all the plans, you talk about the job and everything, and you go ahead and submit your bid, and they require a $5,000 bid bond, which you can either give them a check or you can give them a certificate of that bond saying that there's $5,000. And what happens is, let's say you submit those bids and you give them that bid bond, and then you get the job and you're like, why did I got the job and I'm that cheaper than everybody else? I don't think I want this job. I'm backing out. Well, then your bond gets activated, that bid bond, or you lose that $5,000 cash that you put down. But what it is, that bond is to guarantee that you will finish that job at the price that you submitted if they select you. So that gets a little crazy. And so when you start thinking, oh crap, I did get the job, that means I was the cheapest one here. Performance bond guarantees that the contractor will complete a contract within its time frame and conditions. Guys, I've seen penalties of $10,000 a day if not completed in a certain time. Maintenance bond guarantees that for a stated period, typically for 1 year, no defective workmanship or material will appear in the completed project. You got to maintain it. That 1 year warranty, guys. And then a completion bond provides assurance to the financial backers of a construction project that it will be completed on time. Crazy stuff there. Crazy stuff. You start talking all this legal terminology and it gets a little crazy. Fidelity bond covers business owners for losses due to dishonesty acts by their employees. Unreal. You mean we actually hire people that are dishonest? We do it all the time, probably, don't you? How many of you had the cops show up at your shop and arrest an employee for something he's done not paying child support or got caught doing something over the weekend and they finally found them. Lien bond guarantees that liens cannot be placed against the owner's property by contractors for payment or services. Man, they are really protecting themselves. So what it is, you are working for the general contractor who's working for the owner who's paid the general contractor who has not paid you, but you have to sign a lien bond saying that you will not file a lien on the owner's property because they are paying the GC who hasn't paid you. Subcontractor's bond protects the general contractor in the event that the subcontractor does not fully perform the contract and or pay for labor and materials. So if you are hiring those subs, make them get that bond, guys. Well, Eric, I'm fully insured and licensed. I have my driver's license and automobile insurance. Why do I need a bond? Do I got to get that bond on my truck out there? No, man. This is the guarantee that you are going to fully perform your deal of the contract. And then there's sometimes a bank letter of credit. It's not a bond, but is a cash guarantee to the owner that can be converted to a payment to the owner by a bank or lending institution if you do not do what you are supposed to do. And then qualifying for a bond, you got to have good references. You got to have the ability to meet current and future obligations, experience matching these contract requirements, previous jobs, necessary equipment to complete the work, financial stability, good credit, and then established bank relationships and a line of credit. Guys, you should have that already if you're in business. Well, Eric, I don't file taxes. They think I'm a stay-at-home dad and we just file everything under my wife's tax. I've had guys tell me that. Local guys. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're kidding me that you're hiding that. Yeah, it's just me and 2 employees and I pay them under the table. Guys, being in the position that I'm in and talking with you guys, I hear it all. And I try my best to convince these guys. I mean, that's what I call good business ethics, right? That's not being ethical in your business if you're doing things of that nature. Bond claims, the filing process. Construction law and contractual relationships govern the bond claims process. The government statutes outline the filing process for statutory bonds. And then for a project changes, the surety company will not cover changes to the original contract unless specifically outlined in the bond agreement. There is a request for additional coverage may be made and the bonding company shall be notified. Payment in the event of default. In the event of a contractor default, the surety bond has several options. Provide additional financing for the contractor to finish the project, arrange for a new contractor to hire subcontractors, or pay out the amount of the bond. So the bond company can give that money to the owner, or they can give more money to that contractor who messed up and fix it, but they're going to come after you hard. They're going to get their money back. I can promise you that. Or then they can get that new contractor to finish the job like they did at UNCG. The Miller Act requires performance and payment bonds on all federal construction projects greater than $100,000. A performance bond is required in an amount of the contracting officer regards as adequate, usually 100% of the contracted price. So if you're doing a $500,000 job, you're going to provide them with a $500,000 bond. A separate payment bond is required for the protection of the suppliers of labor and materials. And then Construction Industry Payment Protection Act of 1999. And what does that do? And I'm sitting here trying to look for it. I want to make sure that I tell you that, guys. And that is the Construction Industry Payment Protection Act of 1999, makes several amendments to the Miller Act of 1935. Its purpose is to improve payment bond protections for persons who furnish labor and material for use on federal construction projects. The law was passed because the bonding amount specified in the Miller Act may not provide subcontractors with adequate protection. So it's giving them a little bit more protection. And then laws governing bonding of North Carolina state public construction projects. State public projects meeting the following criteria require the contractor to obtain a performance and payment bond. The total amount of contracts awarded exceeds $300,000. the contractor or contract exceeds $50,000 on the project. And then state departments, state agencies, and the University of North Carolina and its constituent institutions require performance bond and payment bond in the total amount of construction contract. They want to make sure they're getting their job done, because guess what, guys? You know, the students always come first, and so they have to get those things done. Bond laws on federal sites. State public projects meeting the following criteria require the contractor to obtain a performance and payment bond where the total amount of contracts awarded exceeds 300, just like the state. Same projects, 50,000 on the project, and University of North Carolina. And guys, what that is a repeat slide. So my apologies on that. And this concludes, guys, managing risk, referenced to the NASCLA Landscape Contractors Guide. And you can look at some of these forms and stuff if you purchase the textbook at nasclaforms.org, and they've got some good information on that. So, guys, I appreciate it, guys. And Turf Teacher, we'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.